everybody, this is dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking about the intro cinematic for the Shattered Veil and why we haven't gotten one. Definitely stay tuned. But considering this is a zombies-focused video, I want to remind you about the Speed Cola weapon charm that you can unlock by picking up the brand new Speed Cola Collector's Can over at Control Freak. Don't forget, you can use code DYNAMITE to save 12% off any order on the site, including for this new Collector's Edition. Inside the can, you'll see Speed Cola themed thumbsticks and a single code that you can input at callofduty.com/redeem, in which you can then bring the Speed Cola charm into any game mode of your choice. But real quick, somebody did reach out to Detonated with new information on the Call of Duty Recon Squad. This is the brand new survey system that is asking players for feedback on just about every game mode. There was a set of zombies-focused questions that got sent out a couple of days ago, and of course, as you answer certain survey questions, you can then go ahead and redeem some of your points for in-game rewards, which are essentially just some bundles that got thrown here on this website. I talked more about the Recon Squad in a separate video if you guys are interested, but here are the zombies questions that were asked. First, what would make players play Black Ops 6 Zombies even more, with the options being earnable operator skins, a new map, new gobblegums, new research augments, or more enemy variety in each map? Honestly, I think it's just about all of the above, but when it comes to the quality and depth of each round-based map, I think it's really important to have extended narratives, better cutscenes, and of course, more and earnable rewards for maybe beating a quest multiple times. That's just something off the dome, but they were also asking if whether or not players are satisfied with the following systems and features: research augments, gobblegums, pack-a-punch, the arsenal machine, crafting table, and even calling card challenges. I think at this point, we just gotta ditch the whole idea of calling card rewards. I love the idea of challenges that a lot of the calling cards offer, but let's make the rewards something a little bit more valuable, whether it's gobblegums, wonder weapon skins, operators, or even tracer blueprints. Now, it's also possible some of those features that are currently in BO6 don't make their way back into Black Ops 2025, the Call of Duty game that's releasing in a couple of months. Maybe some things get changed a bit where we go back to more of a classic zombies experience, but that, of course, is unconfirmed. And the last question that was asked is regarding gobblegums. The question is, have you ever purchased gobblegums? How do gobblegums impact your ability to achieve goals? Do gobblegums make your match more enjoyable? And lastly, what scenarios do you use gobblegums in? I want to say that it kind of seems like gobblegums haven't been as popular this year, maybe because the earn rates of some of the better ones are kind of low. I just got my first free Perkaholic a couple of days ago, which is crazy to say, and without Newton's cookbook, people just have a stockpile, no pun intended, of a bunch of gums they probably don't want to use, on top of the fact that they're all consumables. There aren't any free classic ones, so I feel like the system could use a little bit of work, and that's probably why they also overhauled the system to where you now spawn in with 3 or the first 3 from your pack. Now, with those zombies updates aside, let's talk about the intro cinematic cutscene. So we might end up going 2 for 2. I'm sure this point will be proven in the next week and a half. We'll end up going 2 for 2 on round-based maps in BO6 with no intro cutscene. If you're like, wait, DK, there's still time left before April the 3rd. Couldn't they just market it any day now? And sure, it's always possible because anything is possible. But with the way that they've marketed DLC 3 thus far, typically what they've done with just about every map, especially for BO6, is they'll do a build-up of marketing where it'll end up leading to something, and the marketing we got for Shattered Veil as of recently simply led up to the map name and logo reveal. Then after that, Activision switched to marketing Verdansk and just a little bit of Season 3 in general with the key art and other quality of life features. They haven't really marketed zombies since early last week, and obviously we're going to get the full-fledged blog post and roadmap this week, but is there an opportunity for an intro cutscene? I honestly don't think so. Now, to be realistic, we're obviously going to see a big Season 3 cutscene talking more about the narrative with Jason Hudson and Warzone. It'll tie into multiplayer a little bit. We'll obviously get a full-fledged gameplay trailer of every game mode with probably a couple of snippets of the Shattered Veil, and then we'll probably see like a fly-through of the Verdansk POIs, followed by Battle Pass marketing, which is around a week and some change from now. But in reality, Liberty Falls had an intro cutscene that almost in a genius way already showed us everything we need to see that kind of covered most of the DLC season for Black Ops 6. We got to see the mansion, which is where we're going in the Shattered Veil, that takes place within Liberty Falls, right? You tied in Blanchard, you showed us some scientists getting sucked into a portal, we saw the zombies outbreak, plenty of areas outside of Richthofen's quarters, and then the underground laboratory where SAM currently is, on top of the Wunderwaffe, which I believe is going to be some type of Easter egg related wonder weapon that we'll end up getting in DLC 3. Now, I'm aware that a lot of you are probably sick of seeing the Liberty Falls intro cutscene because it was already used quite a bit before the launch of Black Ops 6 to talk about the game, and now it's being used quite heavily to talk about DLC 3. I get it, I'm sick of using it too. You're probably not going to be seeing the use of the cutscene after we beat the Easter egg in the upcoming map, but that's just the way things have been, sadly. Now, tonight's video is sponsored by Lagofast. If you're seeing lobbies like this, then look no further than the Lagofast Game Booster. Players can go up against easier opponents, complete their challenges, and unlock camos easier, as well as boost their KD ratio to watch their stats soar. No one should have to feel like they're in a tournament when they just want to grind XP or complete an event, so all a player needs to do is open the Lagofast app on PC, or the mobile app if they're on console, select a recommended node, then change their location. Don't forget, Lagofast can also reduce ping and boost your FPS to maximize the player experience across thousands of different games. But if you're ready to download Lagofast, then check out the special link down below in this video's description or the pinned comments and use my discount code to save 30% off your order. So if there was an intro cinematic for the Shattered Veil, what would we really see? Now, I'm not saying I don't want one, I most certainly do. I think it would be great to see Requiem kind of walking the same path that Richtofen did in the Liberty Falls intro, seeing what he maybe left behind, dead bodies, maybe they come across Blanchard, and then maybe coming across Richtofen's family portrait, which could obviously haunt Weaver in ways that we haven't been able to see in-game yet. Now, the fact that we didn't get an intro cutscene for the Tomb, which honestly had so much potential to at least tell us a flashback type story, similar to what we saw with the Origins intro cutscene, where it kind of talks about and shows us the excavation site from way back when and the repercussions of it. With the Tomb intro, we could have gotten a flashback with Sir Archibald and Alistair Rhodes and big connections to the Chaos story, maybe even explaining that the original Ice Staff, not the Maxis copy, was present in the dig site or appeared out of nowhere. There was so much they could have showed that didn't really have to even take place in present day within the 90s, where our Requiem crew is going to investigate. It could have just been a bunch of exposition that just really furthers the Dark Ether narrative, answers more questions, and of course conveys visually a lot of information that we might have learned through recent intel. So while I do think there's maybe a chance we get an intro for, let's say, the final round-based map of the year, Janus Towers, that map also takes place in Liberty Falls, not too far away from the mansion, so I feel like our best bet is just potentially seeing mid-Easter egg cutscenes, kind of like what we saw with Terminus and Citadel Day More, and then hopefully a meaningful ending cutscene that actually furthers the plot, features our characters actually talking to each other, and hopefully, even if rendered in-game, can actually make it feel like Kevin Drew's statement pre-release makes sense. And his statement was that with the Black Ops 6 Zombies story, they want to step it up compared to Cold War, where they're going to be showing more, not telling more. Show, don't tell. Meaning we don't have to go through hundreds of pieces of intel to figure out the story, still have some intel, which unfortunately the Tomb didn't really offer too much of as far as meaningful intel, but having more in-game cutscenes or big conversations between our main crew, which will help further the plot like what we saw in the old zombie story. Now, what I'm going to go into in just a minute is what I believe could be the three major reasons why the Dark Ether story is currently suffering. But you might have noticed how weird the narrative has been for Black Ops 6 Zombies, as I talked about in length on the podcast, especially the recent one with Stanley, who's very informative about zombies, by the way. We talked about the fact that Black Ops 6 from the start seemed like it was written kind of in a different direction than maybe they would have hoped, but with Treyarch potentially having to lead Call of Duty 2025, aka BO7, did that mean they would have to prolong the Black Ops 6 narrative? I mean, we waited several years to see Richtofen, but from the start in the Liberty Falls intro, he gets sidelined, and we have to wait till what, DLC 3 or 4 to rescue him and see him actually play an active role in the story going forward. And we've also had to prolong the process of collecting and activating the Sentinel artifact. We got the amulet on Citadel, grabbed the damn artifact on the Tomb, and we still haven't activated it yet because we have to go find something called Tempest, which is only available inside of the Shattered Veil mansion. According to the community, who did some real good research, shout out to Stanley, who was just in the podcast and brought this up specifically just the other day, there was somebody named Joseph, who has been working at Treyarch since seemingly the very beginning of Zombies, and I believe was responsible for actually writing the Ether timeline and keeping track of very important story beats, which I believe allowed for the rich narrative and intel that we saw within Cold War. Because remember, Cold War's issue wasn't really the story and the intel, it was kind of just the way the story was told, because it seemed seemed like Treyarch had almost no time to even work on that game, even post-launch. There was very few cutscenes, but you can tell that there was an overarching plot that stemmed from start to finish and was carefully calculated and concluded at the end of Forsaken. But in Black Ops 6, it seems like we had a real strong start that is just seemingly falling flat now, and we're all just hoping for some big climax or revival of rich narrative with DLC 3. I'm not trying to attribute all success of Zombies or the narrative to just one person, but take a look at this clip of Jason Blundell referencing Joseph many years ago.
Do you ever second guess how much you actually understand the storyline yourself? Are you ever just in the shower in the morning going like, what was that detail again? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yes, and that's why we have a writing department. We actually have one of our guys in the writing department who was responsible for putting together the zombie timeline, which is this huge kind of sprawling, I would say mess, but it's kind of map of story information we've done over the kind of 10 years. And both Craig and I will go and see him to actually ask him if an idea we're having fits, because he has it all stored in his head. Because we have to go and sit down and look it all up and double check it, and he can say, yep, yes, Max's was there at that time at this point.
Now, if Joseph was the reason why the story has been so rich for all these years, I mean, again, there's several writers and so many people that create the team at Treyarch that make the zombies that we love, but if this individual really ensured consistency and continuity with zombies overall, then that could explain why there's been some real clear mistakes made as of lately, especially with this misinterpreted intel. Long story short, it shouldn't actually make sense that Ravenov and Samantha ever met with these uniforms on. They met for the first time at the end of Firebase Z, so there's a picture in the Citadel intro that looks like somebody at Treyarch right now misinterpreted intel that's over on the COD Wiki, and again, the COD Wiki often does have a lot of fan theories and extra details added in that aren't exactly objective, so if the writers don't have that specific team member that's been there all this time and knows the story in and out, that's gonna lead to some issues. Now, overall, Joseph being absent may actually answer at least one of 3 issues that we've currently been questioning the last couple of months. Obviously, with the first issue being narrative, right? What's going on with the writing, and why are so many things just not being followed up on that were set up at the end of Cold War? And check out this list that you can see here on Twitter. So many plot points that we would have thought would have been heavily focused on, at least in Intel, but just haven't been acknowledged at all. So congrats to DICE for picking Joseph up, because I'm sure the story in Battlefield's going to be a lot better, but what's going on with the Strike Team, Zykov, Dark Ether Entities, Ravenov follow-ups, the Bastard Sons, Peck's motivation, Strauss exploration? There's so much left unanswered, and it is incredibly heartbreaking to think that for some reason he was just let go and maybe not promoted or not given a raise. Who knows what the story actually is here, but he wrote a ton with BO3 and 4 radios, which were always peak for Ether and Chaos. He designed a lot of the intel, I believe over 500 pieces for Cold War, wrote the Chronicles Ether timeline, and the go-to guy for Jason Blundell and Craig Houston. Why was he let go? That is just unbelievable and honestly just devastating for the zombie story right now. But I mentioned that this could explain one of 3 issues, right? Narrative's one, the voice actor strike is another, which is completely separate and may be responsible for why certain characters aren't speaking anymore, even though they've clearly recast certain characters like Gray and Peck. They just don't have dialogue for the new actors to speak. I don't know what's going on there. And the third issue could be the fact that Treyarch has to work on this other Call of Duty coming out in a few months, which may be taking away from resources that Black Ops 6 could have used. But with the development of COD 2025, could that also answer why maybe extra budget wasn't saved for additional cinematic cutscenes, CGI cutscenes, I shall add? Because we got one for Citadel, which was pretty cool, right? We got the return of Ravenov, but why haven't we gotten one for at least the Tomb? I mean, maybe you can get away with not doing one for DLC 3. Will we get one for DLC 4? Is it something to do with budget to where they just won't be able to make enough cutscenes? I know it's even silly to talk about considering Microsoft and Activision's ownership of Call of Duty, but either way, it's still worth talking about. But overall, it just has me worried about the potential return of the OG crew. How will they be written and how will things be conveyed if we also see similar issues to what we've been seeing with Black Ops 6? And if Black Ops 7, let's say, is an absolute banger as far as the zombie story goes, then it'll really leave us scratching our heads as to why Black Ops 6 essentially was just a bunch of filler and just a big fetch quest for the Sentinel artifact and rescuing Richtofen and Samantha, who again, we were waiting several years to see follow-up on, yet it may have taken every DLC PC map to finally get back on track. But that is about it. This has been DK Dynamite. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the lack of an intro cinematic for the Shattered Veil? How are you feeling about the current narrative with the Dark Ether story? And also, what are your thoughts on the departure of Joseph, who was at Treyarch for quite some time? Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.